Boxing is the swill barrel of sports. It's a dirty racket in many instances, and that's the way it's going to be.
So Eddie Hearn claims Boxer and Ben Shalom have a third party back in their financial plays, other than Sky. And Eddie's getting frustrated. Eddie's under a little pressure, not a little, a lot of pressure in the UK. Because you have to look at some of the moves that Boxer make. Big up Everything Boxing. He put this post up that was on nosmokeboxing.com. They put this on Twitter. Natasha Jonas replied to the post and said, "I'm pretty sure Top Rank paid for the Baumgardner Mayor fight. It didn't come from the Boxer XX budget. And maybe, just maybe, hear me out, Boxer are paying fighters what they're worth." Boxing Talk, he replied, "You're not getting paid what you're worth. You're getting overpaid by someone trying to get a foothold in the market, just like Eddie did with his DAZN budget. At some point, Boxer wants some return on their shows. Eubank Smith on pay-per-view is already a bad sign." But then again, is it a bad sign that DAZN are doing all these influencer YouTuber fights right now? So everyone's trying to recoup. The difference being, though, the Misfits shows headed by KSI, they're successful. Smith versus Eubank as a pay-per-view, I predict to flop. I'll be surprised if it does good numbers. In the article, somebody replies that Hearn running his mouth is why Sky doubled down on the boxing game as opposed to backing out as previously planned. If they are that fickle, then wow. Secondly, competition makes everyone raise their game. So I'm totally good with Sky in the mix. So Eddie left Sky believing that they were just going to bow out gracefully, but they thought that Eddie was getting too big for his britches. Interviews every second talking about the big moves he's making. Now, Tasha's deluding herself a little. Let's keep it real. Like, Eddie made 2 offers for the Terry Harper-Jonas rematch. The second bid is rumored to be at least 500 grand. That's a huge purse for a woman boxer. Tasha was coming out saying, "Oh, that's not the biggest purse we've had." But it would be the biggest purse she's had. Her and Ben Shalom said there were bigger offers on the table. And maybe so. I haven't seen the table. But she's never earned 500 grand, one purse. Now they're holding out because they don't want to give DAZN and Eddie all the juice by sending Natasha Jonas back over to Matchroom, who she left to go over to Boxer. And Tasha don't want to go over there. And Joe Gallagher sure doesn't want to go over there. So they're turning down huge money, which she should really be taking, just so Eddie can't build. But she's being compensated for that. There's no doubt about that. Gallagher and Jonas keep asking about Jessica McCaskill, but her trainer, Rick Ramos, McCaskill's trainer, wrote that off. They asked about Katie Taylor, but Katie's already beat her. She's not on the radar. Katie's lining up to fight Amanda Serrano. Jake Paul was saying if Serrano wins her next fight and becomes undisputed, that's going to happen this year. Croke Park, 80,000. That's not there, but they want the massive fights from Matchroom. They don't see Terry Harper as a big fight, although Natasha and her drew first time around, and it would be a big fight. But she's being compensated for not taking the huge purse against Harper. And this third party is a tangible theory. Yeah, they can take the 500 grand from Matchroom and pitch Tasha in with Harper. But the last fight was controversial. I thought Tasha won it, and they gave it to Harper. And if Tasha does beat Harper, she can't build off Harper's name. They want to make her a star. The star names are McCaskill, even though she just lost her last fight. She was an undisputed champion. And Katie Taylor. They want to build off them names to put her on par with the likes of Clarissa Shields and Katie Taylor. If Ben Shalom and Sky let Natasha off the Sky platform, it's got to be a fight they think it's worth taking a risk for. And they're calculating that Natasha has more to lose in terms of star power than Terry Harper, who they're probably thinking has more to gain. So they're not going for it. This is how convoluted it's getting over here and fucked up. And that's women's boxing. How much do they pay for the likes of Fraser Clark and Ben Whittaker to get their signatures? It's not like they were gold medalists. Like, when Matchroom was signing Olympians from 2012 London, AJ was gold. Katie Taylor was gold, I believe, in the previous Olympics before that. Luke Campbell, gold. When they were signing Olympians from 2016, Okolie didn't medal. Boaxi got a silver. But they didn't have to break the bank to sign them at that stage there. Because Sky wasn't competing with Eddie. They was all in it together. But the lengths they went to get the Olympians from 2021, so Eddie wouldn't get them. And I already had a debate with somebody who believes that, oh, they would have spent all that money and they would have went that hard to get them anyway. No, I have to disagree. Huge money. Tasha believes that Top Rank paid for Bob Gardner versus Michaela Mayo when Bob has no interest in women's boxing. She believes Bob Arum paid out for a fight in Britain between two women that he couldn't air prime time in America on ESPN. No. Eddie was critical about the Bob Gardner Mayo fight, putting that on the undercard when it should have been a main event, really, shouldn't it? So what Eddie's saying is, eventually, this third party, when they don't see the returns for all the money they're splashing out, Ben Shalom and Sky will have to start offering market value for fighters and fights. And that's where the Zone will be able to start throwing their muscle about, because everything Matchroom does is not backed by a third party, it's backed strictly by the Zone. We know Eddie struck a deal worth $100 million for 5 years with the Zone. Dalton Smith, he was still non-committal whether he was going to stay at Matchroom or defect over to Sky. I'm looking online, people are saying go to Sky, the satellite channel, rather than the app. They were saying the Zone cards go unnoticed on the app. People don't even know they're on. And Sky does do huge viewership, normally on the back end of football games. The advertisement on Sky and their various channels is on a different level to what any satellite or terrestrial entity can produce in the United Kingdom. At the same time, though, the Zone goes out to how much countries? How much markets do they have? Eddie is still promoting the likes of Alvarez and Joshua, two of the biggest draws in boxing right now. There's no way you're going to see someone like Adam Azim headlining a DAZN card. He headlines cards on Sky because they haven't produced yet. So if Dalton Smith, British light welterweight champion, goes over to Sky, I mean, what's he going to do? You're going to fight on the undercard of Liam Smith and Eubank? These are the pay-per-views that Sky are talking about. They've put a big bag of money in front of Okolie, and whether you don't like the way he boxes or you don't like him calling Eddie whatever he called him, you can't blame him for wanting to get at the bag. You really can't. Now, he's left 258 management. A lot of people don't like the way Okolie fights. Will he go on to be the face of Sky Sports? When in all truth, without being on Anthony Joshua's cards, which has helped the likes of Katie Taylor become the top draw in women's boxing. Eddie Hearn, hate him or love him, marmite him or whatever you want to do, Ben Shalom cannot sell a card like Eddie Hearn. Okolie has to stand on his own too, understandable, but he can't play down how much 258, being on Anthony Joshua's cards, photo opportunity to Joshua, the Matchroom Association has increased his visibility and popularity compared to other cruiserweights and other fighters in general. Can't play that down. Does Okolie become the face of Sky? I don't think he should try and answer that question. Let other people focus on that. He needs to keep hold of that belt, then make the move to heavy and make his way through the rankings. No W's, no face or nothing. No I'm a star talk or anything. Eddie Hearn has stated that he's lost money on Lawrence Okolie. So people are asking, if that's the case, why wouldn't you just let him go? Why are you making a big deal about this one fight that is allegedly left on the contract? Okolie himself was asking the same question. Well, obviously it's the principle, isn't it? Because you're the head promoter, not just of Matchroom, but this huge streaming app. He doesn't want to be seen as this soft touch that boxers and other business people he interacts with could just walk over and ignore their obligations. On the Joshua Pulev undercard, the WBO title fight between Okolie and Glowacki fell through. So it was a choice of taking him off the bill or bring a replacement in. The representative for Okolie signed off that this fight against the late opponent will not be registered as one of Okolie's fights on his contract, so he'll still have a couple of fights left. Okolie, according to Eddie, he wanted to fight, he needed to hit something, he took the fight, he won, he was paid and compensated well. Time will tell how the lawsuit goes. Either Eddie's lying or did you sign off on it? When the WBO were informed of the legal situation between Eddie and Lawrence, the negotiation period for the fight was reduced and they were going to go straight to the purse bid because it's unlikely Eddie and Lawrence would have come to a settlement. Now, Matchroom are legally obligated to make a purse bid for the fight, and they'll probably just bid slightly over the minimum purse bid because they don't want to pay Okolie huge money if they're saying they've been losing money on him. Sky will probably win the purse bid. Yes, they will be involved. Matchroom will get a cut out of whatever deal Okolie does with Sky, and that will be it. There will be no fights left on the contract. Like, people are asking, if Sky wins, will he still be contracted to fight one more fight for Matchroom? No, because Matchroom get a cut of the deal that's done with Sky. It still goes down as one of his fights on his Matchroom contract. If they was on better terms and Sky won the purse bid, Frank Smith or maybe Eddie would still turn up at that Sky show in support of Okolie. And you'll hear them in interviews saying we'll give him anything he needs to succeed in the fight, because they want Okolie to bring the W back to Matchroom. So they're still working with him. So it will count as a fight. They're still working with him, regardless who wins the purse bid. As fractured as the relationship is, if Lawrence asked Eddie for something to help him prep for the fight, depending on what it was, Eddie would still be legally obligated to help him. You do realize that? Yeah, low purse bid from Matchroom. Let David Light or Sky have the burden of trying to make money from an Okolie fight. And I guess, look, if Sky can get whatever cut or percentage from the fight, they'll probably be nowhere near recouping all they spent on Okolie, but 200, 300,000? It's unlikely it'll be 500,000, which is what Okolie's claiming Eddie asked him for to get out of the contract. Whatever they can recoup, they'll take and let him go. You know, like Okolie saying, well, if he lost them all that money, why don't they let him go? But is he in denial that he lost the money? Or is Eddie lying? And if Okolie did lose the money, I'd like to know how much, just out of curiosity. I know some people won't like my answer, but I'm tending to side with Eddie that he lost the money. I don't know how much, though. I predict Okolie's cruiserweight days will be gone, because if Sky broadcast the David Light fight, who's David Light? They're going to have to get Okolie to move up to heavyweight ASAP if they're going to be giving him this huge money that he can't turn down. Has to go up to heavyweight. And even then, there's not a whole load of heavyweights making $1 million purses. Go look at the numbers Andy Ruiz and Ortiz did. Wilder versus Helenius. Otto Wally can't get a fight. Usyk is in a draw, and he's the unified champion. Okolie seems a little unsettled. When Eddie was talking about approaching Tank Davis, he was sent a letter from Mayweather Promotions not to do so because Tank was under contract. And if Ben Shalom and Sky are unsettling fighters, whether they're from Matchroom or anywhere else, it's not right, because Okolie should be focused on one thing, and that's defending against his mandatory. Right now his head's all about the place. He'll probably be able to get away with it just on ability, that he's just much better than the guy, but it's a bit risky, isn't it? There's no way they should be approaching fighters when their contractual status is not 100% verified. Eddie said he saw the document from Sky, Lawrence Okolie, the face of Sky, and he said the interfering party would be dealt with. So who are Matchroom going to be going after in the court case? Is it Okolie or Sky Sports? Now, when it gets into the legal process, when you don't know legalese or the law like that, you can't really predict 100% what's going on. But it does look like Matchroom have a case to accuse Ben Shalom of illegally approaching his fighters under contract, at least in Okolie's case. We'll see with Dalton Smith. In the article, Eddie also referenced the PBC and their use of a third party. That's the hedge fund Waddle & Reed. Now, they pumped millions into getting PBC to kickstart, and recently we've seen the inactivity, the inability to put on Crawford versus Spence. Their output, putting out shows, has decreased significantly. You know, putting on Ortiz and Charles Martin as pay-per-view and Barrios and Thurman could be an indication that somebody is trying to recoup money any way they can.
Errol versus Ugas didn't do big numbers. Floyd's fighting on DAZN. Gervonta Davis is fighting on Showtime without Al Heyman. AB defected to Black Prime, warning the fighters about inactivity. Richardson Hitchens gone to DAZN. So it was a lot happening there. And it's like they're just trying to grab all the money they can get before someone calls time. Sayonara.
Who's the biggest star now, Fury or Joshua?
I mean, people watching this will say, come on, Eddie, but I know the numbers. You know, at the end of the day, Tyson Fury against Derek Chisora did less than 300,000 buys on pay-per-view, right? AJ could fight you and do 500,000 buys on pay-per-view. So, we shall see.
The interviewer's probably unaware that the question is loaded, really. Because if Fury is a bigger star than AJ, it's almost by default. Eddie wouldn't commit to saying Joshua was a bigger star. Why is that? If Joshua's a bigger star, say he's the bigger star. Is Eddie holding on to past glories, reluctant to let them go? That's a fair argument. That's a fair debate. Where's AJ's next fight? It's not in a stadium. It's at the O2 Arena. He hasn't fought in an arena in the UK since when? 2017? When he fought Eric Molina? I mean, Frank Warren literally put out a fight that no one really wanted to see. And 26.95? Yeah, I believe it done around 300 or less, yeah. AJ took on his mandatories. He unified straps against Parker, Klitschko. There were some late substitutes, like Takam came in for Pulev, I believe. And obviously you had the Jarrell Miller situation where Ortiz and Karanaki fumbled the bag and Andy Ruiz turned up. But I don't really remember when AJ was reigning as champion, taking on anyone deliberately, like, you know, defending the so-called lineal title against Tom Schwartz and Otto Wallin, who was unproven until Fury made a pig's ear of what was supposed to be a routine scrap. And obviously recently we got the Derek Chisora voluntary. AJ was defending 3 straps when he fought at White Hart Lane against a former Olympic gold medalist, a former undisputed cruiserweight champion. So he sold out White Hart Lane. Fury, for whatever reason, fought Derek Chisora when the majority of the boxing world were dead against it. What fights has AJ took like that? If you're just going to judge the resume by AJ's 3 losses, well, you can go back to the John McDermott fight, which a lot of people think that Fury lost. You can go back to some of the cherry picks. You can go back to the fact AJ has more defenses than Fury. The PEDs is also an asterisk against his success. And Eddie does have a point. But the thing is, the debate intertwines into who's got the better resume or who's more popular. And the truth is, until everybody fights a high percentage of their rivals at that weight class, it's hard to read the resumes. This ain't like the 70s, where Ali fought Frazier 3 times, Norton 3 times, Foreman, Shavers, and fought all of them guys.